In today's video, I'm going to be replacing the thermostat on a Fiat Panda. This Fiat Panda is struggling to reach normal operating temperature. In fact, the temperature gauge seems to hang around in the cold zone most of the time the vehicle's on the move. But when the vehicle is sat stationary and there's no airflow through the radiator, it does creep up as normal and then into the warmer zone where the fan will cut in. Historically, a lot of thermostats would seize shut, and this would cause cars to overheat. And back in the old days, thermostats would often be replaced for that reason. But these days, thermostats often fail the other way, and they fail to regulate the temperature. You see, most of the time the airflow through the radiator would actually be more than the engine needs to be cool. So the thermostat shuts slightly and allows less coolant to flow to the radiator. And the thermostat should regulate this on an ongoing basis. So quite often, if your temperature gauge is reading cool, when you're on the move, you need to change your thermostat. Additionally, you may actually be burning a little bit more fuel, because if the signal from the temperature sensor suggests to the engine ECU that the engine is still warming up, it could well be overfueling. So you can possibly improve your miles per gallon by changing the thermostat too. I have right here a genuine Fiat thermostat, and here it is out of the box. It does come with the coolant temperature sensor, which is great, and the seal. So the thermostat is in there, it's all part of this little housing. So let's get it fitted. The thermostat lives right under here on the end of the cylinder head. The easiest way to get to it is just to get this battery and the battery tray out of the way. It improves accessibility considerably. There's no way I'll be able to get my hands down in there. Disconnect the battery. It has a quick release on the negative, which is quite a nice touch. $10mm nut to be loosened on the positive terminal, and that's out of the way. Battery itself is secured by this strap and bracket arrangement here, 13mm. Battery can be removed. Battery tray is secured by some 13mm bolts, one here, and there's one down in here in this recess. That one's a bit stiff. These need to be disconnected. There is also a little earth tab here that needs to be released. There are a series of clips that are retaining various wires, keeping various wires attached to this battery tray, and it is just a case of going around and releasing these. Unplug the ECU. Be careful not to damage any of these little pins in here, they are very delicate. Loosen this little earth tab with a 10mm spanner. Disconnect these wires, there's another one here. And this one here. It's quite a lot attached to this battery tray. And then underneath we've got another couple of clips that secure wiring harnesses. These are reasonably easy to remove. And one under here which will be hard to get on camera. And the battery tray is free to leave the vehicle. As you'll see, accessibility is vastly improved. You can now see where the thermostat lives. I've had the battery tray out on this car before because I have previously replaced this clutch slave cylinder probably about 2 or 3 years ago on this car. And I also had to replace this earth cable due to a problem that masqueraded very well as a defective alternator. But in fact this was a bad earth cable when I replaced this. We have a disappointing situation. I've just looked at the existing arrangement on this car, and the thermostat that I've got right here is wrong. It's difficult to see, but it's a far more basic arrangement on the car. It doesn't have this, doesn't have this. It's essentially just a flange like this with a thermostat, no other bits on it. So gonna have to get the correct part before we can go any further. Very annoying. A few days have passed and we've had a parts delivery. Here is the new component. As you can see, it's a much simpler affair. We've also got the gasket, and just for reference, that is the part number. So this is the incorrect one for this car. It seems that it was kind of on a crossover where the parts changed. There you go, that's the wrong part number, and again the right part number for this specific car. It is now time to remove this old thermostat. It's held in place here by a couple of bolts, and if you take a look at the new housing here, it gives you an idea of where you're going to find them. These bolts are 10mm spanner size. We do need a reasonably long extension to get in there. In terms of getting this on camera, a little difficult, but it's not beyond the bounds of imagination to work out where these two bolts are based on this camera angle. First bolt, and loosen the second bolt. And there might be some people that will be thinking, well, why haven't you drained down the system? Well, you can, but it's not essential. It'll only lose whatever it needs to lose to reach the level of this thermostat. Gently release, and here it is, complete with the gasket. Now Fiat have a habit of using these dreadful crimp style Jubilee clips. I don't like them, not a fan. It's easier just to cut these off and use a decent Jubilee clip. Most German manufacturers use these spring clips, and these are, I think, the gold standard. But the other alternative is a conventional Jubilee clip. There we go, didn't need to cut it, just dismantled it. But these clips really are a nonsense. And remove the old thermostat from the hose. You often get this oxidization here. This is where the coolant just crystallizes or erodes away at the aluminium. Because we're not reusing this, we don't need to clean it up, but it is worth just checking that there's nothing in there that will prevent this hose from sealing against the new thermostat. So just looking at where the thermostat was, it's important just to clean up that mating surface, just to ensure that the new gasket doesn't leak once it's fitted. You can use some fine emery cloth for that, or if it's in good condition, just give it a wipe. I keep an old door mirror glass for things like this. It makes it so much easier to see what you're doing because you can just get the reflection. As you can see there, view in the mirror, the surface is nicely cleaned up. I used a soft wire brush just for that. We fit a suitably sized Jubilee clip over the hose and then refit the new thermostat. Note there is a cutout here in the hose which corresponds with a little raised area on the thermostat. That's how you know it's in the right place. And we tighten this clip. It's now time to refit this using the new gasket, which can only go one way. We could use some gasket sealant on this, However, both surfaces are good. Got the new surface here, very clean surface on the head, so I see no reason to need any additional sealant. The easiest way to keep this in place is to pop the bolts through. And now we refit this, which will be hard to get on camera because of its location. And as you can see there in the reflection in the mirror, that is fitted. And it is just a case of tightening the bolts, initially by hand, both sides, and then final tightening, not to go mad with these, are only little 10mm, and there it is. Just time to get the battery tray and the battery back in, and then we can turn our attention to refilling and bleeding. If you take a look at the underside of this battery tray, you'll see that there are 3 clips, one here, and then one here. Now, these attach around here, one kind of around here and one over here on this wiring loom. I find it easier to do this one first. Followed by these 2. Get that one started with a magnet. Refit the clip for this loom. I've got the earth tab that goes on there. So we refit this little 10mm nut and tighten. We refit the battery terminal cable here into this clip. The earth strap for the ECU goes into this clip here, and then these 2 here are held in this clip. Just refit the ECU connector, and that is everything reconnected to the battery tray. The battery is refitted and secured in place with its retaining strap, bracket and nuts, which we tighten. Refit the positive terminal, tighten, and the negative with its quick release clip refitted. The battery is secure. I've been given 3 litres of this Petronas antifreeze. It's concentrate, so obviously we mix that 50-50. That would make up 6 litres. I definitely don't need that much, but it's now time to refill and bleed the cooling system. These cars have a little bleed screw, so we loosen that. That lets air out as coolant goes in. This is a 50-50 mix antifreeze and water. So we run this until water starts to emerge. So we filled it up pretty much to the line where these are notoriously difficult to see, because the reservoir is so opaque. And now if you look at this bleed screw, you will see that coolant is now emerging. So I can tighten that up. And let's let this vehicle warm up. As this warms up, I am periodically opening this bleed screw just to expel any more air. I'll know when the thermostat's opened, as this top hose here will become warm, and then I'll know the coolant is fully circulating. By shining a light through the reservoir, you get a better idea of the level. It's above the maximum, but it's going to drop as this engine warms up and the thermostat opens. The heater's quite warm in here, but to speed up the warming process, I'm going to turn the fan off. At this point, it's probably good to mention that you'll need to re-enter your radio code as the power supply has been interrupted. And the clock will also need to be reset. This may not make very good TV, but the thermostat has now opened and the top hose is now becoming hot. No more air to come out of the bleed screw. The coolant level has stabilised. The vehicle is running at normal operating temperature. And the cooling fan has cycled on and off a few times. And I'm very pleased to say that that is it for this video, because I've done a lot of work on this car lately. If you've seen my recent videos, you'll know that I changed the rear axle beam, all the rear suspension, all the rear brakes, including brake cables, brake pipes. I also changed the front suspension arms on this car, and this hopefully is the last job for a little while to come. Hope you enjoyed it, hope it was useful. Do keep an eye on the coolant level if you do a job like this, because it does need to stabilise, and it's always worth checking after a decent drive, allowing the vehicle to cool down and then checking it when the vehicle is cold. Always remember that if you do undo a cap, pressure cap, on a hot engine, you do run the risk of being scalded, as it can come out at force and at very high temperature. So do take care when working on cooling systems. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again in another video very soon.